Good evening. It's good to see you. Here's Ghana Tonight live on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. I'm Keminni Amanor. Let's get into our top stories. Former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta faces 78 counts of corruption as the Office of the Special Prosecutor moves to bring him and 7 others to justice for causing financial loss to the state in the GRA SML deal. Also tonight, President John Dramani Mahama hints again that the National Cathedral will be built after certain conditions are met. Tonight, a close look at the renewed call by Christian leaders. Surrender your guns and avoid criminal prosecution. Interior Minister begins gun amnesty exercise to rid the country of illegal small arms in individual possession as part of efforts to check crime and gun violence. Those are the big ones this edition of Ghana Tonight. Thank you so much for your company. We are streaming live on facebook.com, youtube.com, 3news.com, and on x.com as well. You can always reach us with your comments, thoughts, and questions using the hashtag Ghana Tonight. Let's bring you a summary of the night's stories.
The Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP, has filed 78 charges against former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, former GRA Commissioner Ameshadai Owusu-Amoah, SML Chief Executive Evans Edusei, and 4 others over their alleged roles in the controversial revenue assurance contracts between the Ghana Revenue Authority GRA and Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited SML. The charges consist of conspiracy to commit the criminal offense of directly or indirectly influencing the procurement process to obtain an unfair advantage in the award of a procurement contract, corruption, and causing financial loss to the state. President John Dramani Mahama has signaled clearly that he will promptly sign the anti-LGBTQ bill into law once Parliament relays and passes it. The bill, known as the Family Values Bill, stalled earlier after a legal challenge to its constitutionality, leading former President Akufo-Addo to withheld assent. Mahama assured the Christian Council that he is ready to sign the legislation as soon as parliamentary processes are completed.
The position of my government: marriage is between man and woman. A person's gender is determined at birth, and then also that the family is the foundation of our nation. That is our position. And so there are no questions or equivocations about what we believe. I believe that we are completely aligned with the Christian Council in terms of your belief. If the Parliament of the people of Ghana endorse the bill and vote on it and pass it, and it comes to me as president, I will sign it.
Ghana is witnessing a sharp rise in armed robbery and murder cases involving illicit weapons, prompting renewed concern over public safety. The Interior Ministry says the growing threat demands urgent national action. For the first time since 2016, the ministry has announced a nationwide gun amnesty aimed at reducing the growing circulation of illegal firearms.
Every illicit firearm in circulation is a silent threat. It may lie hidden in a cupboard, under a bed, or buried in the bush, but at any moment it can destroy life and families forever. We cannot continue to bury our loved ones while the tool of violence remain unchecked. The statistics is not looking good at all.
Works and Housing Minister Kenneth Gilbert Ejay has charged contractors to accelerate ongoing works on projects aimed at tackling flooding in the capital. The minister was speaking after paying a working visit to major drainage construction sites under the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project.
We first went to the Accra stretch, of which the job has delayed, but they've assured us that they're going to give us their work schedule, and then the ministry is going to ensure that they comply with that. And we're not going to leave any stone unturned. We're going to ensure that the work is done for the good people of Ghana to get the benefits of it. Because we all know what happens when there are floods. It's a big issue for the government.
Black Stars head coach Otto Addo has offered his reflection on Ghana's 1-0 defeat to South Korea in Tuesday's international friendly. Otto Addo acknowledged that his side was second best against the Asian side.
Good game from both sides. At the end, surely, first of all, congratulations for South Korea for the win. They were more clinical on their chances they had. I think we had good ball possession, but also a lot of chances we created which we couldn't use, and the difference was that they used their chances, even though they missed the penalty. I think the game was kind of even. I think it was good to watch.
It's Ghana Tonight, live on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. I'm Keminni Amanor. Coming up, the wheel of justice is starting to grind against the suspects in the GRA-SML deal. Ghana's former finance minister faces 78 counts of corruption causing financial loss to the state. Let's get into that right now. Now, these charges against Ken Ofori-Atta and 7 others over the alleged roles in the controversial revenue assurance contracts between the Ghana Revenue Authority and Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited, SML, is in fulfillment of a promise the Special Prosecutor, Kizia Jabing, made last month. Take a look.
The outcome of the investigation is that the OSP will charge the following persons with various corruption and corruption-related offenses before the end of November 2025. 1. Kenneth Nanayao Ofori-Atta, former Minister of Finance. 2. Ernest Akori, chef de cabinet to Kenneth Nanayao Ofori-Atta as Minister of Finance. 3. Emmanuel Kofi-Nti, former Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority. 4. Amishadai Owusu-Amoah, former Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority. 5. Isaac Krensel, former Commissioner of the Customs Division of Ghana Revenue Authority and General Manager of Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited. 6. Kwejo Damwa, former Commissioner of the Customs Division of Ghana Revenue Authority and Member of Parliament for German South constituency. As part of the process, the OSP will seek to recover the financial loss caused to the Republic from the persons listed above. Also, the OSP will recover a total amount of 125 million cedis from SML by way of a disgorgement of unjust enrichment of overpayment by the return of the benefit of this amount it obtained unfairly at the expense of the Republic.
Well, as I've mentioned already, the 78 charges include corruption and causing financial loss to the state, but that is not even the half of it. Joseph Akable is joining me here. He's finally combed through the 57-page document released by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and he'll share with us what is learned. Joseph, tell us, what do we know so far, right?
I mean, what we've done is to try and summarize all what has been put out by the Special Prosecutor. This is a case that has been thoroughly investigated. We know that there was a KPMG report commissioned by the presidency. Afterwards, the OSP also issued its own report, also multiple pages. And so you can imagine that it's no surprise that we are receiving 57 pages. Now, a summary of how things are looking. There are 8 individuals who have been charged. I'll walk you through the names of those specific individuals shortly. There are 78 counts against these 8 individuals. What this means is that on the day the arraignment will take place, the court clerk would have to read all 78 counts, and they'll have to take the plea of all these individuals who have each of the charges against them. Some of them will have 10 charges, some of them will have 9, some of them will have 11. They'll be read and they'll have to plead to each of them. The last time during the trial of in the Republic vs. Mustafa Abdul Hamid, the initial one, about 25 charges, it took more than almost 2 hours, virtually. So that will tell you how long the arraignment will take if you are looking at 78 counts for 8 individuals. There are 2 others who are at large, and like we all know, it includes the big man himself, Ken Ofori-Atta, who is at the center of this controversy. There are some questions that are already being asked on what will happen on that particular day. If the date is fixed for arraignment, 1, will he show up? Number 2, if he does not show up, will his lawyers show up? And number 3, if his lawyers do not show up and he also does not show up, what step would the OSP be taking? Because there are those who have made the argument that, well, the trial should take place in his absence. There are some legal requirements that would have to be met before that is achieved.
But I mean, while you are at that point, right, based on what we are learning from the document, are we able to tell what the OSP strategy is, whether or not this could be part of the requirements for the extradition, or he may be wanting to try him in absentia?
Absolutely. It fits into the plan for extradition. And since you've asked that, let's just go straight over there, because that fits into what a lot of people have been asking. I mean, they're asking, when is Ofori-Atta coming to town? And I'm going to put that over there for you shortly. Let's walk through the extradition process as the OSP himself put out. The first is that the OSP needs to identify the fugitive. We know that many months ago, the OSP did indicate that Ken Ofori-Atta is an individual that they wanted. And so the next step they had to do was to secure an arrest warrant with the necessary charges. That was also done. The OSP put it out there that they are looking for Ken Ofori-Atta, and they had a warrant for his arrest. The step 3 was the issue of the Interpol red notice, simply informing the international police that there's this individual that we are looking for. If you have him in your jurisdiction or you locate him anywhere, apprehend him and make him available to us. Then comes the step 4, which is the crucial step which has become debatable here in Ghana, the submission of the extradition packet to the Attorney General. It's become controversial in Ghana because the OSP itself, per its release, detailed what needs to be part of the packet that they give over to the Attorney General. It includes a copy of the arrest warrant, which is no issue because they've crossed that step already, a copy of the red notice, no issue, but note here, a copy of the charge sheet. And that is where there was a bit of a challenge. And you heard the Attorney General tell us publicly through the Deputy AG that they had made a request for a docket and the docket had not been provided. Now we know that the charges have been filed. And again, the Office of the Special Prosecutor did indicate to us that they were concluding work on it and that when they are done, they will make everything available to the Attorney General. So what we are learning today in terms of the charges that have been filed will mean that they can't fulfill this. If you look at the charge sheet, the 57-page document, it also includes a fact sheet, which is a summary of the nature of the allegations against these individuals. Why have they been brought to court? What we generally say that the story surrounding the accused persons. So that forms part of the charge sheet, which with that being filed, we expect that it will form part of the packet that will be made available to the Attorney General. And so once they cross this step, other documents they have to provide, relevant statutory provisions, backing, whatever steps they've taken so far, then identification materials, passports of the person they are looking for, photographs, any other identification material that lets anyone know that this is the individual that they are looking for, and any supporting affidavits. These are statements of facts that are sworn by various officials. It could be by investigators or other individuals. So that enables them to meet the step 4. Then comes the other additional steps that they have to take. The Attorney General needs to review and approve the request. He has to make a determination that everything that has been submitted falls within the required laws. They meet the threshold necessary to make such a request for the extradition to be done. Then comes the step 6 that requires the transmission by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's done on behalf of that. And the final step will be the follow-up and the coordination that is carried out by the Republic of Ghana to ensure that Ken Ofori-Atta is brought into the country for the trial to take place.
There was quite a bit of a debate over the transmission of documents from the OSP to the Attorney General. As we speak, what are we learning about that stage of the process now that we have a copy or now that we have a charge sheet?
I mean, from what we've seen in these documents, it tells us there are two possibilities. One, either the process has concluded or at least we are nearing conclusion. The reason being the step 4, which was where there was a bit of a challenge because the copy of the charge sheet, we knew that at the time that the discussions were ongoing, that the AG had said they had asked for the docket, the charges had not been filed. And so this would not have been part of whatever document they would have submitted. But we know that that has been done today. And so we are at least a step towards the closure. Like I did indicate, the statement of fact is a component in the charge sheet. And so that means that that is also available now. And so the expectation will be that they will be able to follow through with it. But, I mean, the question to be answered will be the constitutional requirement that you need to bring the charges that you filed to the attention of the person you are charging. That would ensure that the person now will have to show up and answer to the charges. And if the event the person does not show up, there's the possibility that the lawyers may come and explain why he has not been able to show up.
Right.
Then you'd have to explain to the court whether it's the case that you are trying to find a person to arrest, for which reason the court will now say that, well, should a warrant be issued once again at the high court level for him to be arrested? Or perhaps you make a request to the court that this person is aware and the person has failed to show up, and then comes the possibility that the trial takes place in the absence of that individual. We've seen it happen in some instances.
And you know, that's an important point you make, because we also know that in the past, counsels for Ken Ofori-Atta have made mention that will represent him, right?
Yeah.
Right. So in that arena, have we heard from the camp of Ken Ofori-Atta at this time?
The last time we heard from them was when the OSP had granted an interview to KSM, and he had stated that by the end of November, they were going to file the charges. In fact, he had said it in a press conference as well. And at the time, Frank Davis, in very colorful language, said that, well, there's too much English being spoken all around, and that whatever they want to do against Ofori-Atta, they should proceed to do it. And wherever they have to show up, they will show up and deal with it. We've been checking our sources to find out whether a date has been fixed for the arraignments, and that is the formal charges being read against these other individuals. We know that it's not only Ofori-Atta who is not around. The Michael Akore individual who worked closely with Mr. Ofori-Atta is also not around. So he was the chef de cabinet to Ofori-Atta, Ernest Akore. We know that he is also at large. And so whether on the day that has been fixed for hearing, which is we are yet to confirm that particular date, whether he will show up is another question altogether.
Let's go over the persons who are charged as seen on the document. So
first is Kenneth Nanaya Ofori-Atta, the former finance minister. There is also Ernest Akore, the chef de cabinet to Ofori-Atta during his tenure as finance minister. Then Emmanuel Kofi Nti, a former commissioner general of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Reverend Dr. Amishadai Owusu Amwa, also a former commissioner general of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Then there is Isaac Krentil, who is the general manager for SML. There's also Kojo Damwa, Keno Kojo Damwa, retired, MP for Jaman South currently, and former commissioner at the Customs Division for the Ghana Revenue Authority.
So I think the last one is the entity SML.
SML.
But number 6, is there an added layer of work that needs to be done by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, considering he's a certain MP?
I mean, what we've expected to be done over the period is, in terms of even the arrest procedure, bringing them to the attention of the speaker. There also this back and forth of how you serve all those processes. If they are at the stage of filing, the expectation would be that that would have been done already, because today the OSP has actually put out their mark shots. And we know that these individuals, at least 6 of them, appeared before the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for bringing us all that information. Joseph Akable, like I told you, he's been finely combing through that 57-page document. He's just shared with us bits and pieces of it as you can digest at this time. But, you know, this conversation will continue in your homes, and we hope that we have created the bedrock of understanding where we are now as far as that investigation is concerned. Let's take a look at other issues. Tonight, the Ghanaian Family Values Bill and the National Cathedral return to the front burner as the president reiterates some controversial positions. Stay on for that. Now, President John Dramani Mahama has been stoking debates on key national issues, the Ghanaian Family Values Bill and the National Cathedral. You may already know that the assent to the controversial bill hit a snag in the previous parliament and appears to have stalled in the current House. President John Mahama says he will not hesitate signing the bill into law as long as Parliament passes it. Let's take a listen.
Excellency, the Christian Council notes with growing concern the prolonged silence surrounding the bill on the promotion of proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values. This has created uncertainty and tension within the citizenry, particularly among faith-based organizations and traditional communities.
The position of my government: marriage is between man and woman. A person's gender is determined at birth, and then also that the family is the foundation of our nation. That is our position. And so there are no questions or equivocations about what we believe. I believe that we are completely aligned with the Christian Council in terms of your belief. And so we agree with the Speaker to relay the bill and let Parliament, debate it. And if there are any amendments or whatever that have to be done. If the Parliament of the people of Ghana endorse the bill and vote on it and pass it, and it comes to me as president, I will sign it.
Now, the second issue is the National Cathedral. The president once again hints he is happy to build one under certain conditions. Now, this is not the first time this year that he has made a comment in line with continuing the controversial project. Back in January of this year, 2025, he said same, a position he reiterates in a meeting with Christian leaders. Again, take a look.
The Christian Council of Ghana continues to affirm its belief in the vision and necessity of a national cathedral as a unifying symbol of faith, gratitude to God, and moral renewal for our nation. While we are aware of the prevailing economic difficulties, we believe that the cathedral's completion under a transparent, accountable, and inclusive framework would serve as a spiritual and cultural landmark for generations to come.
I believe that at this time and age, with all the problems we have, $400 million to build a cathedral is excessive. I know Nigeria have built an ecumenical center, and I've been there. It's a decent, beautiful place, and they built it for $40 million. And so maybe some of the things are excessive, Let's find somewhere, all of us, on National Day of Thanksgiving and Worship, we can all go there and worship God and thank Him for what He has done for us. And so when that forensic audit is over, our intention is to have a broad-based consultation with the Christian community to see how we can build a place that is decent for us to worship. But apart from that, make it a center where people can come and, look at its architecture and all that, and find that Christ, has a place in our hearts, in our nation.
Well, President John Dramani Mahama, then, forgive my manners, the man we see speak before the president is Enoch Thompson, who is chair of the Christian Council. Now, remember, I was telling you that the president met with some Christian leaders. Those Christian leaders are members of the Christian Council. Now, let's stay on the subject. I want to talk to a man who has spoken extensively on these two subjects, the Ghanaian Family Values Bill and then the National Cathedral. Edem Senanu is an anti-graft campaigner. He's joining me now. Edem, I appreciate your time tonight on the program. The president's position on the bill must be reassuring, isn't it?
Well, yes. It's probably the most affirmative policy statement on this issue what we call the pro-family values bill, not anti-LGBTQ. But yes, really assuring to hear the president say that.
I see. Now, this puts the ball, if you go by what the president has said, it puts the ball right in the court of parliament again. Is there a will, as far as you're concerned? Do you see that there's a will to pass this anytime soon?
I can't tell. I know that the speaker is bent on getting it done. I'd like to assume that the circumstances under which this was passed by consensus on the 28th of February 2024 has not changed significantly to make it impossible. Even though I have always been of the view that this didn't need to go back to Parliament. I think that somebody needs to go to court to test, because I don't see any constitutional provision or legal when a parliament ends. It doesn't seem to be even the parliamentary practice captured anywhere. So I have a difficulty with that interpretation approach. But the president says he will assent to it, and the speaker says I will lay it. We'll leave with that for now.
Now, Adam, what we'll have to grapple with on that score is the fact that, the speaker really has no vote in Parliament. The action then will be at the footsteps of the MPs themselves. But let's let that lie for a little bit, right? Because I want us to look at the second issue that the president has touched on. He's reiterated that we will audit, and by we, the government will audit and continue the cathedral project. Disappointed?
No, not really. I think I agree with the president to a large extent. I mean, my view has always been that the concept was one that I aligned with. Typically, from a project management view, you look at the concept, you look at the targets and scope, you look at the management competencies. I always felt that in terms of a concept of bringing people, denominations together, there was value in it. In terms of the target and scope, I had a problem. I always felt we should have done a feasibility to establish how much the Christian community can give towards this, and then in the context of how much would be available, then determine the scope of the project, and so that the targets would be realistic. I've always thought that this ought not to have had to depend on state resources. It's a Christian thing. Let the Christians pay for it, and let it be built in the context of what they can afford, and then you can phase it. Have a phase 1, a phase 2, a phase 3. Make sure that the aspects that can begin generating some income are brought online, and they can then generate resources that point to the next phase and what have you. So I was always worried with the scope, the choice of going out when architects in Ghana could have done it probably much cheaper. That was problematic for me. And then the management competencies, who you bring to manage the processes. So I tend to agree with the president that we probably can do this much cheaper. I'm not quite sure about the change of site. A lot of effort and investment has already gone into the originally determined sites, and I'm not quite sure whether suddenly relocating it will make it any easier. So I don't know. It may not need to cover the entire expense, because we've already said perhaps scaling down and making it realistic will work, but I'm not entirely sure whether saying a new location works. I don't necessarily agree with that.
I see. I want to take you up on that, right? The fact that the president says maybe not at the current location, we should find a different place to put it, let it cost less. My question to you is, why not?
I don't know for a fact. I assume that the investigations have been on. I mean, there are a number of anti-graft agencies that could be investigating. I don't know for a fact that A or B is investigating. So I cannot speak to that at the moment.
I see. I was asking earlier about, giving us a bit more on why you think that's perhaps because the damage has already been done, we should maintain the current location. But I see you're looking at other issues to do with the audits that the president has also talked about. But the question then will be, look, we haven't seen much, right, since the NDC came into office. There are those who then question as to whether or not, look, this is very contrary to what the NDC told us when they were in opposition. What would you say to such people?
I'm not quite sure whether there has been a variation from what they were saying. I think that the issues being raised had to do with oversight, the utilization of state resources. And remember that, yes, at the beginning, we were not told that state resources was going to go into this. So advocated and articulated. I did not have a state composition, because in my head I was saying, if Buddhists and traditionalists and other groups are not interested, I mean, this does not benefit them. Why should they be contributing to it? So, initially, the way they positioned it, it didn't seem as if we're going to have any problems. And so the concept by itself was fine. And then as we went along, things seem to have changed. And then it then raised eyebrows relating to, okay, state resources, how are they being managed? And who is in charge? What is being done? Is there value for money? I don't think that those questions by themselves demonstrate a change. And I think that the fact of saying we want a forensic audit attests to that. I don't think that the intention was ever to say that the concept by itself, that's why I made a distinction between concept, scope, and targets, and then on the other hand, the management competencies that were brought to bear.
Now, Adam, in terms of fast-tracking this investigation or audit, what then are your expectations now that the president is hinting again, we would like to do this?
I'm not quite sure whether there has been a variation from what they were saying. I think that the issues being raised had to do with oversight, the utilization of state resources. And remember that, yes, at the beginning, we were not told that state resources was going to go into this. So advocated and articulated. I did not have a state composition, because in my head I was saying, if Buddhists and traditionalists and other groups are not interested, I mean, this does not benefit them. Why should they be contributing to it? So, initially, the way they positioned it, it didn't seem as if we're going to have.
But Adam, I'm asking about your expectations, going forward. Now that the president says we will audit, what are you looking out for?
Commitments. They should just make sure that these are honest, frank commitments that they are going to ensure they deliver on. Part of the challenge we have is that in the past we've had the political elite saying things and, they didn't pull through. And so you are not quite sure whether to trust everything. We say these days is more like seeing is believing. So yes, we will take the president's comments at its face value. We look forward to him delivering on it. And yes, I also align with him that a forensic audit is important to understand what has already happened. I also believe that clearly the concept by itself is not a challenge. It is the scope and targeting, as well as how the things were managed. And let's see how we can do that better. I don't necessarily agree about a change of site or location, even though it might mean using far less of the geographical space than was intended originally.
Now, we also know that the president sent a very strong warning to his appointees who will be caught in graft. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that the president appears to be really on the move. Several things he's commenting on, committing to I listened to the clip where he talked about woe to whoever is the first to bring a scandal on his government. We wish the president well. He should keep his appointees on their toes. There's a lot that we wish could turn around, from Galamsey to the monies disappearing, to making sure that the moral values of our society are consolidated in a way that allows the next generation to do even better than we have done.
Adam, I appreciate your time with us. Adam Senano is an anti-graft campaigner. We've been talking about the Ghanaian family values bill and then the National Cathedral, only because the president has brought that conversation to the front burner in his meeting with Christian leaders earlier today, when he reassured, look, I'm going to sign the bill. If it comes to me, if it passes Parliament and comes to me, he's also hinted that, look, we will audit the National Cathedral and look at continuing the project under certain conditions. So, I mean, of course, the debate will continue wherever you're watching us from. What we're going to do now is take a break. But when we come back, the instruction is simple. Give up your illicit guns and prevent prosecution or penalties. We'll talk about Ghana's gun amnesty when we return. Don't go away. Welcome back. It's still Ghana Tonight here on TV3 and on 392.7 FM. Now, you have up to January 15th, 2026 to voluntarily give back your illegally acquired and possessed firearms and weapons if you want to avoid criminal prosecution. Now, this is the first gun amnesty in a decade, or nearly a decade. And the Interior Minister, Muntaka Mubarak, says it is part of the nation's efforts to curb crime and gun violence. Take a listen.
Every illicit firearm in circulation is a silent threat. It may lie hidden in a cupboard, under a bed, or buried in the bush, but at any moment, it can destroy life and families forever. We cannot continue to bury our loved ones while the tool of violence remain unchecked. The statistics is not looking good at all. When this amnesty period ends, the law will take its full course. The Ghana Police Service and all security agencies will intensify operations to recover illicit arms. Those who refuse this generous offer will be treated as criminals, and the consequences will be firm and uncompromising.
Here's what the numbers look like now as far as crime is concerned. In 2024 alone, 1,219 robbery cases and 552 murders. As of July this year, police had already confirmed 628 armed robbery cases and 340 murders. The common denominator here, illicit weapons. Minister for the Interior, Muntaka Mubarak, says the amnesty will run from December 1 to 2025, December 1, 2025 to January 15th, 2026. Now that you have that information, we know that since the announcement, stakeholders have also waded into the conversation, sharing their perspective on gun amnesty as a way of curbing crime and really removing illicit arms from the system or from our society. Emmanuel Cotton's Africa Center for Security and Counterterrorism is one of those stakeholders, and they've been sharing quite a bit with the public. I want to show you a bit more of that now, of what the center has been saying. The key points from those is that the initiative lacks prior community engagement, which is essential for building trust and ensuring broad participation. Citizens often keep unregistered firearms due to legitimate security concerns, and without visible improvements in police responsiveness, compliance may remain low. Number 3, the announcement provides insufficient detail on how the amnesty process will work, creating uncertainty and hesitancy among potential participants. Number 4, the temporary ban on celebratory gunfire offers an opportunity to build community trust if implemented with strong local engagement. And then final point is that the 6-week amnesty window may yield low compliance unless awareness campaigns and stakeholder engagements begin immediately. Let's connect now with Cotton himself. Join us via telephone. Cotton, really, I read your statement, and the question on my mind is, what is the point?
So, thank you for having me, and very good evening to your cherished listeners. Indeed, you know the Africa Center for Security and Counterterrorism had been at the forefront of calling for a guns amnesty in this country. We believe that as a democracy, the rate of gun proliferation has gone beyond using our security agencies to do sweeps to be able to tackle it holistically. So when the Interior Minister came out with his presser today, we kind of agree with him because we see that it represents a critical step towards addressing some of these challenges, the proliferation of illicit firearms and reducing gun-related violence across the country. But we also identified some critical gaps, just like you mentioned. We thought that the ministry should have engaged key stakeholders.
Which is what I want to take you up on. When you tell us that they should have, presupposes there wasn't an engagement. How do you know that?
Well, more often than not, we are security players. If there were this kind of engagement, the media should know. You don't do this kind of engagement in a vacuum. It should be something that you want the citizenry to own, because arms proliferation directly impacts on the citizens. So when we own the process, it means that we'll track the process. And if you look at amnesty across the world, especially in Africa where it is endemic, the processes are mostly community-led. It's not a top-down approach like the minister was talking about. So I can say on authority that there have not been any crowd community engagement. If there were, definitely the media, you would know, you have covered it, you have showcased it to the public, you have done this kind of awareness. You understand? Because we believe that our chiefs, our religious leaders, civil society organizations, and you know, at the local level, we have what we call the community policing committees. And more especially, our youth leaders, they are essential intermediaries who can translate government messaging into what? Community action. So if you leave them out, it kind of brings a critical gap where you would not get the response you are looking at. And don't forget, my sister, amnesty is not something you coerce people to do it. No. You build some kind of trust around the people to understand the impact of arms proliferation. And once that sinks down into them, it is easy to win their trust and they'll be willing to surrender their weapons willingly. If you look at another aspect, the Interior Ministry didn't also look at why communities or citizens are holding on to unregistered weapons or firearms. You see that we have some gaps in terms of our policing, our response time when crime do take place, especially in areas that crime is endemic. People owe or bear these weapons for their safety. So now, since these arms are turning to be a sort of danger to everybody, there is a need to make them understand and give them some form of assurances. This could be done through the policing by enhanced visibility or regional commanders or district commanders doing localized engagement and giving some form of assurances. And the communities should be able to see that there are corresponding guarantees of improved security. And you see, this kind of perceptions significantly reduce voluntary compliance. So that's another gap we identified. So we recommended that amnesty initiatives should be paired with concrete, visible commitment from the Ghana Police Service to enhance community policing, increase police visibility at high-risk areas, and establish rapid mechanisms to address security concerns. Do you think that, Masuka, if these guarantees are given to the people, they will not be buy into the whole idea of arms amnesty? We don't use threats. Threats have never worked.
Right.
It rather teach the people off to be suspicious of the process.
So Cotton, I mean, just to be clear, there are no threats here, right? The minister's just made an announcement, look, deliver those firearms, because if they find out, the law would have to take its course. That's not a threat, is it? But
I listened to my brother, the commissioner at the small arms, when he mentioned that after the amnesty period and the arrest, return you to and so on. If it was that easy to do shifts and take these weapons out from the people, I think we would have done that. It has gone beyond some of these things. And what government or my good brother, the Interior Minister, is thinking to realize is that there must be process transparency and public confidence.
I see. Cotton, I've got news for you, and I have a few minutes, so I want us to do as much as possible. I've got news for you. We're just hearing from the Small Arms Commission that indeed community engagements are ongoing and continue, they have started and are ongoing at this time. So I guess, we can rest the matter of community engagement. What I want you to tackle for me is the fact that, look, we are going through this process again in nearly a decade after the first one in 2016, right?
Yes.
Gun amnesty in itself cannot deal with the problem of proliferation of small arms in the country. What else would you expect alongside the 6-week amnesty period to ensure that, look, the impact of the amnesty is long-lasting?
You see, given the scale at the moment, the starting point is the arms amnesty that the ministry is coming out with. I'm happy that they are saying that they have started community engagement. But my sister, community engagement is not done in a vacuum. The media should be involved and they will champion it. Community engagement benefits who? Is it not the people? As a security player, I think I'm not even aware that community engagements of this nature are going. Beyond the armed amnesty, like you mentioned, I think that the commission should be transitioned into an authority. And we have made this call on countless occasions. So I want to use your medium to appeal to Parliament as a matter of agency to look at the legal framework and kind of pass the laws and transition the commission to an authority. Then they can have prosecutorial powers. And when they are transitioning into an authority, some resources can be voted to. They can have district offices across the country. Then they can have an action plan in tackling some of these things, especially how these weapons move from the cities to the rural areas. Don't forget, the conflicts we have in this country, the underlying current is this small, the proliferation of these arms in the hands of the civilians. And you know that the conflicts in this country have become one too many. It is not chieftaincy, it is ethnic or it is land. And because they have easy access to arms. So I want the government to see arms proliferation as an existential threat, just like we are tackling galamsey. Otherwise, we will not all be saved in our homes, unfortunately.
Emmanuel Kuchin, Executive Director, Africa Center for Security and Counterterrorism, thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it always.
Always welcome.
Absolutely. And thank you too for watching us. It's time for me to run. I'm Keminni Amanor, and this is Ghana Tonight. Good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and